Welcome back to the series where I turn pride flags into Pokemon teams. For this video, I'm using the Pansexual flag. Pansexual, of course, referring to anybody that loves anyone regardless of their gender or identity. Doesn't matter who you are, doesn't matter what you look like. Today, I will be using a full team of Pokemon with the colors of the Pansexual flag. Special thank you to Caramel Jupiter for coming up with this team idea. If you have a pride flag that you would like to see turn into a Pokemon team, please comment one down below and I will use it. And if you like this kind of content, feel free to subscribe. I would really appreciate it. Now, if you ask me, the best Pokemon for the Pansexual flag is Blacephalon. Look at this Pokemon's limbs. This clown is covered in Pan Pride. Unfortunately, Blacephalon is not in Scarlet and Violet, so I had to settle for the next best thing. I ended up using Rainbow Alcremie. Now, I did use Rainbow Alcremie in the Rainbow Pride flag team that I did. However, this one has the Berry Sweet, and in general, I think that despite it being called the Rainbow Alcremie form, it matches the Pansexual flag so much more. It was also my pick for the original Pride flag team that I did. The next Pokemon I have on my team is Milotic. It doesn't have the exact shade of yellow on it, but I thought it was still a good fit for this Pansexual team. It was very hard to find a Pokemon that had the exact same 3 shades of pink, yellow, and blue, but I thought Bruxish definitely matched it very well, and so I included it on this team. Now, the last 3 Pokemon on this team are Pokemon that maybe individually don't have colors of the flag, but all together, they definitely do. And that's the 3 Lake Guardians. I specifically use their shiny variants because their little crests on their head become more vibrant and sharp, and I think that the colors of their shinies match the Pan Pride flag so much more than their original forms. I also thought it would be unique just to include 3 different Pokemon because they each represent a different color on the Pan Pride flag. So that's the team of Pokemon that I'm going to be using for this Pansexual flag team. Let me know what you think about this team, and without further ado, let's get right into the battles. Good morning, afternoon, and evening, lovely people. Today I am using a Pan Pride flag team. This team was actually pretty hard to make, and I actually ended up getting a lot of battles with this team, a lot more than I usually would. So I have 2 really interesting battles to showcase with this team as always, and I hope you enjoy it. Now, I'm gonna paralyze this Volcarona turn 1. I actually was surprised that I ended up outspeeding it, which tells me that it's probably more of a bulky Volcarona, if anything. So they're gonna go for the Quiver Dance, and I have Encore on this Uxie as well. So this Uxie is more of a utility set. I'm max HP and max speed on this. I have Thunder Wave, Encore, U-Turn, and Psychic Noise to stop like the opponent from using recovery moves. So as the Volcarona goes for another Quiver Dance, I thought, well, they probably feel incentivized to want to stay in and continuously go for repeated Quiver Dances, because what can I do as a Uxie to threaten this? So I'm going to bring in my Mesprit here. Now, this is a Choice Scarf Mesprit, so I'm able to lock in this Volcarona into the Quiver Dance, and I am able to get a Big Root. And I was like, what the heck? This is a Big Root Volcarona? This is probably Giga Drain, obviously. With Big Root, you get more recovery when you're using like recovery moves. So as this Volcarona's Encore ends, it is going to continuously be trapped into the Quiver Dance. So I was like, this is perfect. I essentially like neutralized this Pokemon because it's locked into Choice Scarf and it's paralyzed as well. So it's not really going to be outspeeding anything even after the speed boost it gets from the Choice Scarf. So I'm going to bring in my Milotic. If they're going to continuously Quiver Dance, then I want to have an opportunity to set up with my Milotic. Now, this is a Dragon Dance Milotic. This is Terra Normal with Body Slam. It's pretty interesting. This has Heavy Duty Boots as the item, so I don't take hazard damage because I don't have any hazard removal on this team. I have Waterfall, Body Slam, Dragon Dance, and Recover on the set as well. So the Meloetta comes in. They're going to go for the Relic Song. That's actually going to change them into the Pirouette form, which is going to make them more bulky on the defensive side. So I thought, well, I'm just going to go for another Dragon Dance. I should be able to tank like a close combat or maybe a Drain Punch, but they are going to go for a Drain Punch. And I do tank that, but they are going to get some recovery. So I was like, shoot, maybe I should have went for another Waterfall instead of going for another Dragon Dance, because the Waterfall I went for just missed the KO. Oh no, the Drain Punch recovery. I thought they would be close combat, honestly. Because then they would have gotten the defense drop. I would have maybe been able to tank a hit, and then I for sure would have been able to take them out after the close combat drop. So I'm gonna bring back in my Uxie. I do threaten this with a Psychic Noise now that it's a normal fighting type. But they're gonna bring in their Hydreigon on the Psychic move. So I was like, well, I have a Colbur Berry on this, so I should be able to tank a Dark Pulse. I actually outspeed the Hydreigon, but I missed the Thunder Wave. I was like, no, that's really unfortunate. Because, like I said, I am able to tank this Dark Pulse. This Hydreigon is more than likely a modest nature, considering that I outsped it. I'm running max speed on this Uxie. But they end up terrestrializing their Hydreigon. I was like, is this Terra Ground or Electric? It actually does end up being Terra Electric, which is not something I expected. Which means that they are going to be able to dodge the Thunder Wave because they're immune. Missing that Thunder Wave was really, really unfortunate because Hydreigon is another big problem for this team because I have like 4 Psychic types on this team. I'm really weak to this, so I had to bring in my Alcremie. They are going to have Flash Cannon as coverage as well, which does well over half to me. I actually ended up setting up a Calm Mind here. Now, this is a Life Orb offensive Alcremie. This has Calm Mind. I have both Alluring Voice and Draining Kiss on this set. Draining Kiss just for recovery, and Alluring Voice just to do more overall damage. So I am able to tank the Flash Cannon, but wow, this Hydreigon also just lives on a sliver as well. I was like, I thought it was Focus Sash, but it ends up just tanking it. I was like, geez. Well, it is in range for me to take out with my Azelf. This Azelf, by the way, this Pokemon is really, really, really good. I had to include Mystical Power on one of these Lake Trio sets. I'm also down to half of my team, and I just took out the first Pokemon, so I really need this Azelf to clutch up. Now, Mystical Power is a really interesting move. It boosts your special attack, guaranteed. It's weaker than like Psychic or Psyshock, but it always gives you a special attack boost. Now, I have some crazy coverage on the set. I had Grass Knot, which one-shot the Golurk. I have Thunderbolt on the set, which takes the Swanna down all the way to its Focus Sash. I also have a Focus Sash of my own on this set. And the last move I have on this is Terra Fire, Fire Blast as well. So the Swanna goes for the Tailwind. I thought, I don't want my Focus Sash to be broken on my Azelf just yet. So I'm going to bring in my Mesprit. I know I should probably tank whatever the Swanna is going to go for. They actually missed a Hurricane, but then they land their next Hurricane. So I was like, okay, well, I'm just going to go for the U-turn, take out the Swanna on 1 HP. They did some pretty decent damage. Also cool to see Swanna being used. The opponent is actually running a really interesting, like, black and white Unova team, which is really, really interesting. So, speaking of Unova, here's Reshiram. So I was like, okay, well, I have my Bruxish here. This is a physically defensive Bruxish. This Pokemon is really interesting. I have a Wonder Skin on this. Wonder Skin is a really interesting ability. It essentially what it does is if you go for a status move, it has a 50% chance of landing. I never got the Wonder Skin miss on anything, so I essentially had no ability on this. So as I get my leftovers recovery, I'm going to get 2-hit KO'd, but I do get a defense drop with Liquidation. That's like a bulk up Liquidation Bruxish. So I'm going to bring in my Mesprit. I'm going to go for the Drain Punch. I'm Iron Tail, Drain Punch, U-turn, and Trick with Terra Steel. I get so much recovery from Drain Punch because of the big root I tricked earlier. And as they go for the Blue Flare, they actually end up missing. I was like, holy smokes. That was, I don't know if that would have taken me out outright, but it would have done some pretty decent damage. Mesprit actually has some good overall, like, all-around stats. So I maybe would have been able to tank that. Now, the last two Pokemon are the Volcarona and the Meloetta. Now, I kind of figured that this Volcarona would be like Bug Buzz, but I didn't want to swap in my Azelf because that would have taken me all the way down to my Focus Sash, and I needed to chip this Volcarona for me to tank a hit and then also like 2-hit KO it, because Mystical Power, like I said, has very weak base power initially, so I'm not going to be able to take out this Volcarona, especially considering it might be more bulky, considering my Uxie outsped this. So I'm just going to continuously Drain Punch this Volcarona. Like, I'm just sacrificing my Mesprit at this point, and they are going to Bug Buzz me, and that just takes me out in one hit. I was like, holy smokes. Well, I do have my Azelf, and I'm running Terra Fire on this Azelf as well. So since they lock themselves into the Choice Scarf Bug Buzz, I'm going to be able to resist the Bug Buzz because I'm a Fire type now. And like I said, if I swap this in directly on a Bug Buzz, even though they got paralyzed like 2 turns in a row, I could never risk can never risk swapping this in directly because that would like take me all the way down to my Focus Sash and I would not have been able to one-hit KO it. Like the mystical power does not one-hit KO the Volcarona. So I'm gonna get my special attack boost. I'm gonna go for the Thunderbolt because that's my most accurate move. That takes out the Volcarona. The last Pokemon is the Meloetta, which is on a very low amount of health, which means that I could go for another Thunderbolt at +1 and take out the Meloetta. That was a very, very close game considering that I was down like half of my team versus like their entire 6 at one point. So that itself was like really, really, really good for this end game. Now, if you're enjoying this video, please consider hitting the like button. I would really appreciate it. Share this around. I would also appreciate that, especially with like other pansexual people. Now, this is also a really, really, really interesting game, and I'm gonna apologize in advance for all of the censored nicknames in this battle because basically all of their Pokemon had website nicknames. I actually tanked the Shadow Ball from this Booster Speed Flutter Mane, but Yuxi misses another Thunder Wave. I was like, oh my gosh, this is supposed to be 90% accurate. It's like I had my eyes closed or something. Oh wait. So my Yuxi gets taken out by Shadow Ball. I really didn't have much for this Flutter Mane, and as I bring in my Milotic, they end up going for the Terra Fairy Moonblast as here. So I was like, I brought in my Milotic just to do as much damage as possible with the Waterfall, considering that Flutter Mane doesn't really have the best defenses at all. This Pokemon is a really giant threat to my entire team, as you can see. So they are going to go for that Moonblast. That does over half to me. I was kind of hoping they wouldn't Terrasilize, and I would just 2-hit KO it with the Waterfall, which does some really decent damage, but they are gonna 2-hit KO me easily with the moon. I almost said with the Milotic, with the Moonblast. I was like, shoot. Well, I do have my Alcremie. Alcremie does have naturally good special defense, so I should be able to hopefully take this Moonblast, which I am able to. Thank goodness. They get a special attack drop, which is really unfortunate. So as I go for the Alluring Voice, thankfully after the special attack drop, I am able to take out the Flutter Mane. I was like, thank goodness. Now, this set also has a Sword power as well with Calm Mind, which does a lot of damage, especially boosted by Life Orb. It's why I ran Draining Kiss as well, so I could get Recovery and boost my special defense. So the Charizard comes in. They're going to be Flame Charge. That actually doesn't take me out, but I was wondering, oh wow, is this, I wonder if this Charizard has a Belly Drum with Flame Charge. So it's funny because they went for the speed boost, and Alluring Voice is like a guaranteed confusion because they got a stat boost. So now the Charizard is confused, and I'm gonna bring in my my Bruxish here. Now, I went for the Liquidation this turn, I think, as the Grimmsnarl swapped in, and I thought, okay, well, this Pokemon is more than likely gonna be like dual screens or like sub status type of stuff. So I went for the Taunt. That would have like prevented the Grimmsnarl from going for 2 screens if anything, but it ends up going for Dark Pulse, and it's a special Grimmsnarl. I was like, oh my gosh, that's unfortunate because like I said, I'm defensive. I have no special defense whatsoever, so it just one-shots me. I'm down to like 2 Pokemon at this point. Now I have Choice Scarf Iron Tail on this, but Iron Tail misses. I was like, can I please get one thing going for me in this game, please? Because I already had that Thunder Mist. Yeah, Thunder Mist. Let's call it Thunder Mist because I missed Thunder Wave. So I am able to take the Dark Pulse at the very least, and Iron Tail does one-shot this Grimmsnarl. So I was like, okay, thank goodness I denied it from doing anything, and like, cause Grimmsnarl would have absolutely beat my Azelf 1v1. So as I go for another Iron Tail, I have no switches into this Cerulege, and they're gonna take me out with the Bitter Blade. Now in hindsight, I was upset that I missed the Iron Tail because maybe the Cerulege was Focus Sash, but had it been weak armor, that miss might have actually been a blessing in disguise. So I'm gonna Terrasilize my Azelf because I'm trying to not be weak to Ghost Move. I was really worried about this Pokemon having Shadow Sleep, but they didn't go for it versus my Mesprit, so maybe it doesn't have it. But I end up Terrasilizing, and I have to go for the Mystical Power here. I have to get as much special attack boost as possible because I'm down to my last Pokemon, and they still have 4 very healthy Pokemon in the back. So as I go for the Shadow Claw, I am able to tank that because I have Terra Fire, and thankfully another Mystical Power is going to be enough to take out the Cerulege. So now I have +2 special attack, and the Cerulege gets taken out. Now Charizard comes in. I do have Thunderbolt for this, but I have to get another Mystical Power special attack boost for the Kingdra because none of my moves would be able to take it out, even at +2 special attack. So thankfully, I led another Mystical Power that takes out the Charizard. Iron Hand comes in. It's going to get his booster attack. I was like, oh my gosh, please don't be fake out. Like, please don't be fake out. That would be really unfortunate. Because they would be priority, but they don't have fake out, and I land another mystical power that takes out the Iron Hands, and I'm gonna get another special attack boost, and the last Pokemon is the Kingdra. This Azelf is clutching up for me right now, and I was really worried about this Pokemon being like max health, so I went for another mystical power. I am able to land all of them. Thank goodness. That made up for like the Thunder Wave miss and the Iron Tail miss. That's the end of both games. This Azelf is an absolute menace, by the way. Holy smokes. Thank you all so much for watching. My name is SkyLaaa. Don't forget to smile, and I will see you all next time.